Chosen one, there's a whisper in the spiritual underground, and it has your name carved into its breath. They're saying someone stopped asking for permission, stopped dimming their power, stopped shrinking their presence, and the world responded with either reverence or ruin. Guess who they're talking about? You. The truth is, you didn't learn power. You remembered it. And that's what's terrifying them. You didn't study the craft. You are the craft. No spells, no props, no potions, just willpower, alignment, and divine authority. You see, while others burn sage, you're reprogramming reality at breakfast. They're still writing rituals, and you're already rewriting the rules. You're no longer chanting under the moon. You are the moon. You're the pull behind the tides. And suddenly, the ones who tried to read you can't even recognize you. And yes, ELON knows. The frequency you broadcast, raw, refined, unfiltered light, has reached cosmic thinkers. You don't need a spotlight. You are the signal. You don't ask to lead, you just start walking and worlds adjust. So yes, open up, because you're not being asked to fit in. You're being activated to stand apart. This isn't just a moment. It's a recall of your origin. And when you remember what you are, there's no spell strong enough to bind you, no system smart enough to contain you, no force great enough to stop you. You're not part of the story. You are rewriting it. They're now observing you, the person who didn't go through initiations or train in temples. However, when you talk, the curtain mysteriously separates. Your energy threatens to reconstruct rooms, not simply move them. And that is sovereign meddling, not spell work. Grab your coffee or your staff, and let's discuss why practitioners are freaking out about your mere presence, as if you simply winked and destroyed their protecting sigils. To share the love of the angels, write Amen, and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. First of all, you are not a magician. You alter reality without consent. They use spells that you don't. Without notice, without candles, without waiting for a full moon, and without consulting an ancient grimoire, you change reality. You talk, move, feel, and things happen. And not only superficially. Whole atmospheres shift. Individuals make diverse decisions. Root of energy patterns. The crazy thing is that you don't always do it intentionally. They're anxious about it. When your name is spoken, other practitioners go silent because of it. While they were still learning how to handle it securely, you were the craft, not the other way around. To share the love of the angels, write Amen and contribute up to $20 with a super thank you. The fundamental notion that a process is necessary is disrespected by the way you live. You never knocked on the door, and you never asked for permission to access electricity. You were seated in the room when they woke up. You are living as if the old rites were written about you rather than for you, and you are not meticulously adhering to them. And it's memory, not arrogance. Your soul has an innate ability to manipulate reality without the need for an intermediary. By just being in the wrong location at the wrong time, you're aligning timelines while others are aligning their chakras. And for those who have made control their identity, this is terrifying. They are unable to describe what you do. They are unable to replicate it. Worse, they can't stop it because you don't play in the light or the dark. You exist before the spectrum was separated. You are the spell, and they are utilizing magic books. They chant and you say one word. They create circles and you casually breathe to disrupt the grid. It's not flash or force. It's that uncommon, quiet sort of strength that doesn't perform for an audience. It reorganizes without warning. They are freaked out because they believe you are using the more potent spells. The second is that your quiet is calibration, not power. Your silence isn't an attempt to project strength. You're tuned in, which is why you're quiet. You're focused on something more in-depth and specific, while everyone else is in a hurry to speak, share, and demonstrate their knowledge. You're calculating, not simply silent. You're using your complete system, not just your ears, to listen to the room. You're synchronizing your nervous system to frequencies that other people aren't even aware of, reading the room and feeling the pull. That's calibration, not passivity. Even if they are unable to identify it, individuals can sense it. They think you're receding because of your silence, but you're really uniting. You are listening to the patterns underneath the noise, the charge in the tension, and the data in the stillness. And everything changes when you eventually say anything. This isn't because you strive harder or are louder, but rather because everything you say has time. That's what frightens them. They can fill a space with energy, but it won't be as powerful as the transformation your presence creates. The majority of individuals scatter energy like glitter. You don't. Like a tuning fork, you move. Acting is clean, controlled, and surgical. It's not ostentatious, but it's indisputable, and it is the source of the discomfort. You don't have to stand out. You don't compete for attention. The environment becomes you. People notice how everything seems different once you arrive, but they don't notice you since you're so in harmony with everything. You discovered something others don't. Being loud or active doesn't give you power. It's in your striking accuracy. People are unnerved by your silence because they are unable to anticipate, evaluate, or plan for it. They're unsure if you're planning anything or whether they've never met you before. Additionally, your silence is the spell in a world where everyone is using magic. Simply said, they don't speak the same language as you. You do not need volume because of this. You're accurate, and foundations are shaken by accuracy. Third, you don't expend energy. You speak it as if it were your first language. Energy is not something that exists independently of you. You move it as if it were a native tongue. You are already working from the inside, while others are out here attempting to tap in. It's instinct for you, not effort. You don't give it much thought, you just do it. For others, energy is something to be studied, practiced, and carefully experimented with, which is why it is so unsettling. It comes as naturally to you as blinking. In an attempt to change the atmosphere, they burn candles and make intentions. Before you even speak, the atmosphere changes when you enter a room. Your frequency is louder, not in loudness, but in clarity. But not because you're trying. Other energies seem to have to rearrange themselves in order to accommodate you. The crazy thing is that you don't always realize it. Everything reacts to you as if you were the initial signal, even though you aren't actively giving commands. They're tense because of it, since they're still learning the letters, assuming they're telling the truth. And you're out here writing whole novels because you know this stuff, ancient, deep, rather than out of pride, because you make what they study seem effortless. People gaze at you with a mixture of dread and envy. Perhaps it is. Perhaps this is something that was ingrained in your blood, not in your books, but that you remembered even if you didn't learn it. Knowing more than they do isn't the point. It has to do with having a different wiring. In order to summon energy, they must concentrate. You simply use your senses to pull it. They must defend their area. The power that clears it is you. You do more than simply work with energy. You exemplify it in a manner that causes people to reconsider their whole procedure. It's not a flex, it's simply the way you work. People who depend on effort are afraid of that type of unadulterated fluency. They are able to distinguish between truth and instruction. In actuality, you're not radiating energy. They are aware that you are speaking a language that they have only just begun to interpret. Fourth, you made a breakthrough without being asked or initiated. Without the right blessings, credentials, lineage permission, or 10 years of mentoring, you weren't intended to be here. However, you did. The steps they said were sacrosanct, were circumvented by you. Not to be disrespectful, but because their consent wasn't necessary for your route. You failed to knock, They stated the doors were locked, yet you strolled right through them. They're now rushing to figure out how. It wasn't rebellion. Resonance was the cause. You were already dancing to an earlier song while others were busy memorizing the dance. Because life itself broke you open. Pain, loneliness, tragedy, awakening. You didn't wait to be introduced. The mystery was not studied by you. You experienced it. You didn't sit at the feet of anybody. With your own shadows, you sat. No instructor phoned to call you. Spirit pulled you along. People who spent decades climbing ladders you never touched are unnerved by it. They earned their place at the table by hard effort. And then you arrive with the table, moving in ways they can't understand, and speaking in ways you weren't trained. The religious writings are not cited by you. They read as if they were footnotes to your prior direct experiences. And it disturbs them deeply because it calls into question the notion that authority must be bestowed rather than recalled. You are a live example of how initiation need not always seem to be a formal process. Sometimes it seems as if no one noticed the surviving creatures. There are moments when you wake up in complete stillness, without a title, a group, or a mentor, and with the horrifying realization that nothing is as it appears. In any case, you know what to do. Tradition cannot quantify or verify that type of enlightenment. It violates the whole framework. They have never seen the keys you wield. Furthermore, they have no idea what doors you have opened or what could open up next. That is destabilizing as well as unnerving. Perhaps the map was never the purpose if you entered without it. You are hazardous in every aspect because of it. Fifth, they use your triggers as tools. It wasn't ceremony that gave you your authority. Collapse is how you discovered it. Your neural system was rewired after experiencing such profound sadness. Through the evenings when nobody came to your aid and stillness cried out. You were attempting to recall how to deal with sorrow while others were burning candles and creating sigils. How to survive when it seems like everything inside of you is dying, and something ancient cracked open somewhere in that fire. You were not awake. The reality itself shattered you. Your power feels different as a result. It isn't practiced or borrowed. It's ingrained in your nervous system and is genuine and unadulterated. The codes that activated your gifts were the same things that devastated you. You truly lived what most people do in rituals: isolation, ego dissolution, and death and rebirth. Just you in the wreckage, with no ceremony or costume. You had no option but to become. You couldn't afford to pretend. They are now attempting to touch what is already ingrained in your bones by employing the same symbols and dark lunar rituals. In symbolic form, they imitate suffering. You made it through it. And since your art pierces rather than merely vibrates, the difference is seen right away. It's more than just resonance. It shocks the system. It carries a voltage that only real suffering and real awakening can encode. That's why people respond so strongly to your presence. It's not polished. It's pure. It didn't come from a manual. It came from being gutted over and over again and choosing to return every time, sharper, clearer, and somehow still open. That's a kind of power you can't teach. It has to be earned the hard way, and you earned it without trying to. That's what sets you apart. You didn't go looking for tools. Life handed you weapons disguised as wounds. And now, the exact things that nearly killed you are the reason your magic strikes like truth. Because it is truth. Number 6. They study hermetics. You alter gravity when you talk. You're not borrowing from old books or referencing mystics to seem sophisticated. You don't need to. The thing those texts are attempting to explain, that's what you are. Untranslated, unfiltered, and yet alive. While others are tracing symbols, you're already moving in the raw power behind them. They study hermetics like it's theory. You come into a room, talk, and that idea falls into action. Something in your voice smacks like lost laws falling back into place, not because you're louder, wiser, or attempting to impress someone. You don't provide counsel. You provide reality checks, the sort that cause individuals to doubt everything they believe to be true about themselves, their destiny, and their strength. You don't simply say things. They cause disturbance. They tilt the axis. Around you, people feel a little unsteady, but not because you're unstable. It's because their outdated perspective isn't able to keep up with your frequency. Charm isn't it. It's not a show. It's resonance. One that travels directly to bone, avoiding the surface. Everyone understands that what you say is true, even if no one expects to hear it. You've become the result of truth, not because you studied its mechanics. Your words have the weight of someone who has experienced the breakdown of illusions and returned to talk in frequencies that most people aren't even aware of. And it confuses individuals, particularly those who base their identity on ideology, expertise, and control. They are used to holding the position of leadership. Then you enter and talk with the weight of something that is undeserved but indisputable. The air abruptly shifts. Their structures flex. Your presence is the evidence they've been searching for in all the wrong places. Not because you're attempting to instruct. You're not attempting to be profound. The depth is you. Additionally, gravity changes when you speak because reality acknowledges one of its own. Seventh, you don't exude enthusiasm. Dimensions are reorganized. You're not out here trying to spread energy or improve the atmosphere in a room. You don't have to. Nothing is being projected by you. The whole energy structure surrounding you is being reorganized by you. You're rebuilding the grid below both points, while others are busy transferring light from point A to point B. Because of this, your presence bends results rather than simply feelings. When you show up, they don't feel any better or worse. Their lives gradually begin to change. Things either come together or fall apart. Patterns break down. Synchronicities occur. Furthermore, they are unaware that you are the common denominator. It has nothing to do with aura. It has to do with architecture. It is impossible to control what is shown. Under it, you reorganize the plan. You're removing outdated code from timelines that aren't even yours, while others are seeing manifestations. People are trembling because they are unable to track it down. They are unable to describe it. However, their choices seem to shift after speaking with you. Their connections change. Their perception of reality is somewhat skewed, leading them to doubt everything. They also don't know whether it's hazardous or heavenly. It's not loud what you do. It's nuanced and unabashedly profound. You're not trying to force energy on others. You are the field of energy that makes everything else realign. You don't just talk about your intentions. You have a frequency of vibration that subtly calls for structural adjustment. People fantasize about you. After being close to you, they either become ill or recover. Their fortunes change. Their schemes go apart or come together. And it has nothing to do with your blessings or curses. It's because everything fake is destabilized by your field. They do not grasp magic as that. Spelling is not what that is. Dimensional editing is what it is. You don't follow the map. They understand they're standing in one you built. You are not the ripple. You're the rewriting. They are unable to unfeel it once they have experienced it. They just aren't sure what to name it. They refer to it as power. It's precision, however. It's the design. Rebuilding the unseen without ever asking permission is what you do best. Eighth, your frequency confuses their grids rather than increasing them. You don't enter a room smelling of love and light like some high-frequency concept that has been properly filtered. The room begins to malfunction as soon as you arrive. It's subtle, odd, and indisputable. Humans experience headaches. Electronics flicker. The air becomes heavier. It's not a bad thing. The reason is incompatibility. You are not the improvement. Simply said, they aren't designed to run your OS. you don't feel well. You have a distinct feel, and that distinction jumbles everything according to ego, delusion, or control. You're not even attempting to do any damage. Simply put, their systems were not built to handle you. You're not antagonistic, therefore their grids, mental or energetic, aren't contaminated. They short-circuit because your presence exposes every vulnerability they attempted to cover up with mantras, crystals, and rituals. You're not a mess. Simply put, anything phony is incompatible with you. As a result, safeguards designed to prevent damage are unsure of how to handle you since you are not in danger. Truth in action is what you are. Truth, however, has a voltage. It makes a buzzing sound. It exposes falsehoods, even those concealed under 10 levels of spiritual branding. Their sigils vanish as a result. Because of this, their well-planned energy work ends while you're nearby. It was never steady in the first place, not because you took it away. You're not just a light here to calm people down. Without apology, you are a frequency disruptor. When you enter areas, patterns that have been latent begin to awaken. Things that were considered sacrosanct begin to tremble, and illusions begin to crumble. Not because you did anything to them, but because your presence calls into question everything they created without a solid basis. They will accuse you of being passionate, excessive, or even dangerous.